Ladies and gentlemen, here's a quick video on the legal term guilty mind, or mens rea. It was first used in 1215 in Britain in Western legal code, but it goes back to Rome in its Latin roots and probably to Greek in its conception, but it's modern in its usage. It is an interesting fact about our legal code that there is a term which measures not only did you commit the act in question or commit the crime, but did you mean to commit the crime? So you can prove that the crime was committed, but if there's no proof of mens rea or guilty mind, then there may not be a conviction, or the conviction, or pardon me, the punishment may be a lot less than it would have been. So mens rea or guilty mind is one of the toolboxes in modern jurisprudence to allow us to make sure that the punishment fits the crime. In ancient penal codes, it was like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, to be flippant about it. If you committed a certain crime, there was a certain punishment, and that's all there was to it. And a very large part of what our judges and court systems and juries do today is deciding what the punishment is. Not just whether or not the crime was committed, but what is the punishment for the crime, assuming it's proven that it was committed. It's an interesting difference between ancient and modern punishments. One striking example that I can name was the case of a man whose 14-year-old son was abducted, sexually assaulted, taken for weeks, safely made it back to his family, and the perpetrator was arrested. But the father wasn't going to let justice take its course. The father waited at a phone booth where he knew the criminal would be brought by police past him. And the criminal was brought, a cop on each side, he was in handcuffs and a county suit and all that. And the father turned, he's on the phone, and just as the guy walks behind him, he turns, drops the phone, takes a gun, and shoots the criminal in the back of the head. He was tried, he was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 6 months in house arrest, not even in prison. So that's how far we can go in modern jurisprudence when we have proven that they've committed the crime. It's obvious that there's malice aforethought even. They did have mens rea or guilty mind, and yet the jury can completely leave aside the maximum sentence or whatever. There is a maximum and a minimum sentence as compared to ancient penal codes where there was only one sentence for one crime. So mens rea or guilty mind is an interesting glimpse into the exactness and the extreme attempt to make sure justice is done in every individual case in modern jurisprudence. I'm not particularly interested in legal theory, but I may be doing some more reading. I've got 8 or 10 books about the history of courts and court cases and the history of the Supreme Court and the law in the United States and this sort of thing. It's a whole section, a legal section on my shelf, so maybe I'll be doing more reading about this in the future. But suffice it to say right now, that's interesting enough in itself to note the difference between just rough-hewn justice, the guy committed a murder, put him to death. And in the modern sense, the guy committed a murder, but did he mean to commit the murder? Is he guilty? There are people that commit a robbery. 2 robbers go in and rob a place, and the guy behind the counter shoots and kills one of them. And the second robber is tried for the murder, for murder, even though he didn't shoot his friend, the guy behind the counter did. And the guy behind the counter is not tried for murder or even for manslaughter. So there are some fascinating facets to justice in the modern penal code. And I'm glad that it's gotten this far. It's just terrible that we punish people for things that aren't crimes when we have so much sophistication and all these tools to make sure the punishment fits the crime, and then we're putting people in jail for shooting heroin or smoking pot or taking acid or whatever. That's a total abomination to justice. But I think that's all I have to say about mens rea or guilty mind. There's not a lot available on the internet about it, certainly not in video form, so this will be one of the first out there for those who want to look it up quick. Thanks for watching.